Hi everyone, welcome to the Pharma Mind, Dose of Education and Research. I'm Assistant Professor Mr. Manohar Kengar, Nootan College of Pharmacy, Kavathemahankal. Last lecture, we are studying the suppositories related information like definition, introduction, advantages, disadvantages, properties, base of the selection of the suppositories, preparation method of the suppositories, and the evaluation of the suppositories. The today's lecture, we are going to learn about the base selection in the suppositories. This is the index of the today's point. There are the two types of the base which are the using to the suppositories, which is the classified as first oleoginously base, which included two types, coca butter and coca butter substitutes, the synthetic fat. Second one is a hydrophilic bases, which included 2-point water soluble bases and the water dispersible bases. The first basis of the oleoginously base. What is the oleoginously base? The oleoginously base include thermoform oil and the synthetic triglyceride mixture. The thermoform oils or the coca butter is used as the suppository basis because in a large measure it fulfills the requirement of the ideal basis. The suppository base plays important roles of the maintaining the shape, solidity, and also play important role when they inserted into the body cavity. The ideal properties of the oleoginously base. First is it must be retain the shape and the size. It should be melt at the body temperature. It should be non-irritant. It should be shrink the sufficiently to remove to the mold. It should not be interfere to the release and the absorption of the drug. It should permit the incorporation to the drug. It should be compatible with the varieties of the drug. It should be physically stable under the storage. It should not be softened and hardened of the storage. These all of the properties we are using the selection of the base by the suppositories, which is like these base are the shape and the properly size, which is the melt into the body temperature, which will not be irritant, which is the not be interfere to the absorption and the release of the drug, which is the compatible with the varieties of the drug, which is the physically stable into the storage conditions, and which is the not be occurring to the soften and the harden which into the storage condition. This is the various types of the ideal properties to the oleoginously base. The first type is a coca butter. The coca butter is a fat obtained from the roasted seed of the thermobroma coca. At the room temperature, it is a yellowish white solid having the faint agradable the chocolate-like odor, which is the chemically it is the triglyceride combination of the glycerin and one or the more different fatty acids, which is the primarily of the olivopalmistate, and it is the oligodystrin. It is a melt at the 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. The coca butter is immiscible with the body fluid and has the poor water absorption cavity. The certain soluble drug like volatile oils, etutic mixture, camphor, menthol, phenol, and the charcoals hydrate the depress into the melting point to the coca butter. The coca butter containing high proportion of the unsaturated triglyceride and having the iodine value between 34 to 38 because of its tendency of the lake form to the body cavities and immiscible with the aqueous secretion. The coca butter is not good has base of the vaginal and the uterine use. The coca butter suppositories are the liable to the melt in a warm climate, in such as the case the addition of the beeswax, the melting point 6 to 64 degrees Celsius, which is increases the melting point by the additions about the 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. The fractionated flame kernel oil is also recommended such as the cases. The second one, the limitations of the coca butter. As the natural material, there is a considerable batch-to-batch variation of the compositions and the physicochemical properties. Second one is the coca butter shows the batch-to-batch variation in the melting point and thus shows the variation of the drug release and exhibit the temperature dependent and the polymorphism, which is the all of the types of the limitations of the coca butter. The advantages of the coca butter, which is the melting just below to the body temperature, the maintaining its solidity and the usual room temperature, the readily liquefy to the heating to solidity for the cooling area, as well as due to the saturation, the base are the less prone to the rancidity, do not exhibit the polymorphisms to the heating, the exhibit the good water absorption and the emulsifying properties, which is the shows the melting points are the not affected much by the soluble substances. The suppositories of the bases are the wild smooth and the odorless. Disadvantage of the coca butter, which is occurring to the rancidity, which chances to the stick to the mold, which chances to the leakage from the body cavity, which base is costly, which is the immiscible with the body fluid, and the chloral hydrate to the lactic acid of the liquid, which is the all of the disadvantages of the coca butter. The second one is synthetic fatty bases. These include the hydrogenated, fractionated, and the trans-esterified vegetable oil, such as the coconut oil, palm kernel oil, cottonseed oil, pimento nut oil, etc. The oil containing the high uric acid are the subject to the hydrogenation to the reduce the unsaturation in that turn of the possibility of the rancidification and increases the chemical internals. This process increases the percentage of the solid fat from that low melting triglyceride are the further the removed by the pressing or the solvent extraction to yield the hard butter. It mainly contains the high molecular weight, the triglyceride of the narrow melting range. The advantages of the synthetic base fat due to the saturation, these bases are the less prone to rancidity, do not exhibit the polymer presence into the heating, exhibit the good water absorption and the emulsifying properties to the shows. The melting points are not affected much by the fat-soluble substances. The suppositories of these the bases are the white, smooth, and odorless. They solidified rapidly into the mold to shrink sufficiently and the making lubrications of the mold of the necessary. This is the also advantages of the synthetic fatty bases. The second type is the hydrophilic bases. The drug released from the bases is the functional of the dissolution of the base rather than to the melting. The hydrophilic class, the suppositories include the excipient that dissolve into the presence of the water. This include the primary glycerin, gelatin, and the water-soluble polymers such as the PEG, polyethylene glycol. The suppositories based on the glycerin are the most known for the use in the treatment of the constipations. There are the three types into the water-soluble bases. First of one is a GLYCERO-GELATIN base, soup glycerin base, and the polyethylene glycol. The first one is a gelato-glycerin or the soup glycerin base. The glycerin is a gelled with either soup or the gelatin to the produce base or the desired viscosity, softness and the stiffness. These bases are the water soluble and the dissolve into the body fluid, the release of the medicaments. The gelato-glycerin, the suppositories are used exclusively for the laxative purpose of the vaginal agitation. The gelatin increases the melting point of the base that decreases to the drug release, which is the process. It is the mixture of the glycerin and the water which is the made of the stiffy by the addition of the gelatin. Glycerol plus water plus gelatin is equal to prepare the GLYCERO-GELATIN bases, which is the properties of the GLYCERO-GELATIN bases, which is it is a colorless, transparent and translucent in nature, which is a softened touch. It is a melting point is a 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, which is used as especially to the vaginal suppositories. The advantages of the gelato-glycerin, the first is it meant at the body temperature, it mixes with the body fluid, it is not rancidity, it can be used to prepare the suppositories using the boric acids, chlorohydrate and the bromide, iodides and the iodoform, opium, etc. This is the advantages of this gelato-glycerin. The disadvantage of the gelato-glycerin is the difficulty to the prepare to the handle. It is a major disadvantage of this base. Chance to the growth of the bacteria, which is the hygroscopic in nature, become the hard on the drying and soft in the count to the moisture, which is according to the laxative action, which is the incompatibility with the tannic acid and the ferric chloride, etc., which is the disadvantages of this the gelato-glycerin. The second type is a polyethylene glycol. These are the commonly known as the carboxylase and the polyglycol. These are the available in the solid, liquid and the semi-solid state depending upon the molecular weight. Those polymers having the molecular weight below 200 to 1000 are the liquid. Those having the melting point higher than the 1000 are the waxes like the solid. They are the chemical stable and the physicochemical inert substances and do not allow the bacterial or the mold growth to the take place. The several combination of the polyethylene glycol have been prepared for the suppositories bases having the different physical characteristics. Example of this the formula can be illustrated by the few suggestions that the work of the Collins and Jobs. The advantages of the polyethylene glycol, they are the chemically stable, inert, non-irritant, do not allow the bacterial growth. The physical property changes according to the molecular weight, provided prolonged action, do not stick to the mold. The suppositories are the clean and the smooth inner appearance. This is the best advantages of the polyethylene glycol. Second one is the water dispersible base, the criteria and the suppositories. The water dispersible base, they include the several non-ionic surfactants like the twin and the sperm. They act as the self-emulsification agent in water, forming soft, bulky and non-irritant. The emulsifier suitable for the rectal treatment. Use of the surfactant can disintegrating agents like the aerosols may be assist to the rapid administration disintegration of the suppositories. The satisfy the most the criteria and the ideal properties with the temperature stability. Therefore, these the stored at the room temperature. Drug compatibility, both water soluble and the oil soluble drugs can be fractionated to the using the base. Non-toxicity and non-greasy, resident to the microbial growth, good molding to the ability, and due to the surface tension of the lowering properties shows the increases the drug wetting and the dispersion and the even solubility. Next video we are going to discuss about the preparation method of the suppositories. If you have the any queries regarding to the series of the suppositories of the topic, kindly comment us below. We will answer it the next video. Let's end this the session. Thank you. Keep study. Stay with the Pharma Mind, dose of education and research. Don't forget to like, share and comment to Pharma Mind and click the bell icon to get more videos. Thank you.